Hello and welcome dear learners to the NPTEL course on Healthcare Quality Management, Infection Control and Patient Safety. In the Module 4, Clinical Governance, Leadership and Risk Management in Healthcare, we will be studying for today's chapter 43, that is Clinical Audit Part 3. In this, we will study the importance of making improvements, communication findings, implementing changes and its key elements. So in the stage 4, we are trying to understand making improvements, importance of making improvements. The most important part of the audit cycle is making a change. A change which we can say that a clinical audit is a key tool for a quality improvement. So when we are expecting a quality improvement, we are trying to say that there is an audit cycle which needs to go through a change. If the audit findings shows that standards are not met, change is imperative. So change must be implemented in a planned and structured manner. So we expect a change and we should try to implement the change. So change management tools that may be used are included over here. We can use Levin's 3-step change model. We can use Cotter's 8-step change model or Burke-Litwin 12-factor model over here. These are the three tools that can be used to plan a process ahead for quality improvement. So what is the importance of making improvements and why do we require improvements? The most important part of our audit cycle is making a change. As we have discussed about the change, we are expecting that in a clinical audit, which is a key tool for quality improvement, the audit findings show that standards are not met. So when we come to know that the standards are not met, change is imperative. Change must be implemented in a planned and structured manner. Change management tools may be used. So in communicating findings, the first step in making improvement is communicating audit findings. Audit findings should be clearly linked to service improvement goals. Findings must be communicated to all clinicians whose practice was audited, members of the clinical audit team, all staff involved in implementing change. Dissemination of findings may be passive or active. So, in what is an audit report? A finalized audit report acts as the official record of the project. The audit finding should be written as a report and presented verbally. A professional clinical audit report follows a standardized structure starting with a title page, followed by background and defined aims and standards, which is also followed by methodology and result. So there is a conclusion actually with action plans and references added by appendices. So you may come across an entire professional clinical audit report which has a standardized structure which I have deposited over here. Then comes implementing this change. When we have discussed from the planning and come to the report how to go ahead for the next step. The implementing change is the most difficult stage of the clinical audit cycle. Many audit projects fail at this stage because this is the one phase which gives us the clear direction whether we are able to continue with this or whether it is feasible or not. So change implementation should be considered while designing the audit, planned from the beginning, and now when we are considering what is there to be changed as. All the key stakeholders in the healthcare organization should be involved in every step and supported by organizational management. The management should give a great support actually to the staff to maintain staff motivation and ensure that they get necessary resources like manpower resources and finance resources whenever it is needed. The audit design must be robust to withstand the scrutiny, because if there is a good design actually we can say and which can come across actually to give us a great scrutiny level. Now the change process, as we have discussed, the change process is one which is being stated in 3 stages. The first stage is initiation, second is implementation, and third is continuation. The key elements of initiating the change. The most important question before change is, do people recognize the need for the change? Do they really understand actually what the change is really going as? So presenting the audit result helps understand the staff perception. You can get the ideas when you present the audit over there. You can understand whether they are willing to change varies between individual to individual. if the staff with a shorter experience may accept the change more readily. While versus you may come across a staff who has already been there in the system for many years may not be even accepting it. So change must be solid to staff resistance to change actually. So clinicians' concerns must be addressed who are important key stakeholders in this change process. Benefits of the change should be explained clearly. You need to go and explain them what really the change is expected to happen, and that is what the ultimate purpose of this activity is. Identifying and engaging opinion leaders is critical. So when you are trying to engage with those who are in the role of clinical leaders, there is an important way actually to dealing what they really are trying to tell you about, and the quality journey actually what they have really seen in that particular institution. Opinion leader act as a role model within department or organization, and they can shape the entire quality improvement journey in a very different way, which can be seen very promising actually to those institutions who really require clinical leaders. Now we can see in this picture that implementing organizational change as a key element and sustained behavior. When we are trying to plan a strategic planning and execution, we are expecting a detailed plan which comes with break into task where you have to see, along with that managerial task actually, which is followed by achievable targets and pilot projects which are demonstrable benefit, which are building an acceptance for that. On the other side, you may find that you have to go ahead with staff engagement and communication, which steps into the inputs and open channels. Along with that, circulars are being released and meetings are being held, and social influence and conformity which comes from a group pressure engaging internalization. So in the very first two steps actually which we can see is that on the green and on the brown actually which can give a detail about the process of execution of this planning. The next step goes with the trans-theoretical model of behavior change. These are the stages of individual change where we see the pre-contemplation. So no intention, audit unless useless. If there is a change possible, audit is useful. If there is a preparation which is being seen, a explicit plan which is an active engagement which is one among the finest way that you are moving for the process. Action which is a change implemented and practice modified which is expected for most of the organization. And now there is the maintenance part which is a new behavior consolidated and sustained which we are really trying to move ahead with. So from pre-contemplation to contemplation, preparation, action and maintenance. What is the ultimate objective of this? The ultimate objective is reflected over here in red, that is sustained behavior change, not just a temporary compliance, but yes, the organization is usually accepting it and taking it ahead for and continuing it, which is called as sustained behavior change over here. Now, in the last, for the summary to this entire chapter, we are trying to make that change is the core purpose of clinical audit. Clinical audit has to go through a change. When standards are not met, planned and structured change must be implemented using appropriate change management models. So you have to work on the different change management models, and it is very important that organization need to follow the clinical audit entire cycle. Effective improvement requires clear communication of audit findings. Many times it is being seen that most of the organizations who have gone through clinical audit, they are not able to put it to their employees or to their healthcare personals at different ranks, because it is very important that you need to communicate this to all relevant stakeholders in your organization using written report and active discussion. Written report can be like you have to give them entire idea or entire report to them. The sharing becomes very important for them to visibly go for this part. Active discussion is one which is very important, where they have to understand what the process of clinical audit has a lapses or a deficiency or a preparation, where you are planning to the end of the finalization of report on compilation will also give you more discussion on each and every segment of that report. The successful change depends on early planning. As we have already discussed in the previous chapters about the planning, which involvement of the key stakeholders, management support, adequate resource and sustained staff motivation, which will Always try to see that the planning process, if it is a strong process and has taken with utter care, it can reach or it can lead to a successful change. Now, initiating change requires ensuring that the staff recognize the need for the change. Many times you come across a change and you may come across a staff who is really resistant or they don't want to. As we have already said that staff who is very new or they are in the joining process, they are more closer or they might find it very easy actually to accept this change. But most of the time the staff who are there in the system for years, they resist for this change. So addressing their concerns, clearly explaining them the benefits of the change, and engaging opinion leader as role model. Very, very important for this particular point that opinion leaders play a very important role because they are the most influential people in the organization. They are being found as a strong stakeholders who can shape or can come as a role model to the other employees. Implementing change involves breaking change into achievable tasks. You need to do some sort of tasking actually, which is very important, which can be broken into small tasks actually, which are achievable tasks where the employee can found that they are able to do that rather than not a big task actually which takes a time for an employee to achieve. Keeping communication channels open, which is very important that a employee at a grassroots level or an employee at a mid level or an employee at a higher level can easily communicate on this quality improvement journey. For that, what you need to do? You need to do some pilot project for skeptics where you can see that there can be a breaking of those changes actually into achievable tasks where you can put up a teams actually which can be a team of different stakeholders in the organization, which is very important that change is inevitable and has to be accepted. This should be made explain actually to those employees. And finally, ensuring a real change in behavior. The real change cannot be only in the system or in the process, but also in the behavior of the employees. The employee need to understand that change in behavior is to be seen in practice. In a subjective sense, we can say that you may find that there is a change which can be reflected in an healthcare organization employee's personality and not just in compliance. Compliance is one which is a first stage, but a real change in the behavior is one which is accepted, and we can find there is a culture that can be sustained for quality improvement. So with this we come an end to this chapter. We'll come for the further discussion on this part into the coming topic actually coming lecture. Thank you. With this you can find the references for this chapter.